2017 Softball Rules Clinic. Please print legibly on your card. Take this time to silence your cell phones if you've not done that. If you're officiating both softball and baseball, you would attend the Softball Rules Clinic and you'll view the film for baseball. Your clinic tonight is brought to you by MedExpress. MedExpress is one of our corporate partners. Just like schools have boosters clubs to help provide services to the students, MedExpress is one of our corporate partners that helps us provide services to our membership. We receive no tax dollars for our operating budget, so MedExpress is one of our great corporate partners. They offer physicals for our students for a nominal fee of $30 a physical. They treat a variety of illnesses and injuries. And they are located across the state in various locations, and no appointment is necessary. Coaches, we would ask that you notify your student athletes of the services that MedExpress provides for them. You have required reading for officials and coaches. Coaches, your packet is online if you go to Sports and Schedules, then click on softball, the softball page will come up. Your packet is there. Officials, yours is under the Officials tab. Officials, your NFHS rulebook was taken back from the interps meeting, so your board secretary has your rulebook. Coaches, your rulebook was mailed to the school. It would say Parkersburg High softball coach. You would need to see your administrator to get your NFHS rulebook. The Interscholastic is a separate document. It is not in your officials packet, and it is not in your coaches packet. It is required reading. It is printed 3 times a year: fall, winter, spring. You would go to the Interscholastic on our website and then go to the spring Interscholastic to read the softball required reading information. The directory is also online. It's important that that is kept up to date. If you're a new coach and last year's coach's name is in the directory for your school, you would need to contact your school administration to update the school directory. Sportsmanship is important, and for it to work, everyone around this circle must do their part. The NFHS offers a free sportsmanship course. Coaches, this is a great teachable moment. It's a great learning tool for your students. You can watch that together with your student athletes. The course is available at nfhslearn.com. Here are your season dates. These are in the officials packet as well as the coaches packet. Your first contest date's March 15th. We have some changes in the sectional and regional format. So it is important the bolded name in the Interscholastic should schedule the meeting, the sectional meeting, by March 15th, before the first game is played. So if you're the bolded name in the Interscholastic, all that means is that you're responsible for calling the meeting. At that meeting, you'll decide officials, format, site, time, dates, all of that in your sectional meeting. Now, we go through reclassification every 4 years. So softball went from 4 regions, 4 sections in each region, to 4 regions, 2 sections in each region. So now you may have had 3 teams in your region, you may have 6 or 7 now. So it has changed. In schools, some schools that were AAA bumped down to AA. Some single A's bumped up to AA. Some AA bumped down to single A. So the schools that you had on your schedule last year may not be the same schools that you need to play this year. So you need to go to the Interscholastic and look at the reclassification and the new sections, the combined sections. Your sectional tournament date, May 1st through the 12th. Regional, the 15th through the 20th. The state tournament dates, nothing's changed there. Pitching rule, 14 innings in 1 day. Coach, if you violate this rule, so that means a doubleheader, you pitch the same pitcher and it goes into extra innings, you must pitch another pitcher. Your pitcher only has 14 innings in 1 day. Head coach will be suspended for the next 3 contests or games, and the pitcher may not pitch in the next 3 contests or games. The official ball this year, this will be the last year for the Wilson ball. It always must have, any ball that is a legal ball must have the NFHS authenticating mark with a .4 core and 0.375 pounds composition. So this is the Wilson ball. We have entered into a new all-ball contract with Spalding. So the softball will be a Dudley Thunder Heat is the ball that we will be using next year. So the Wilson ball is for this year. Now, don't go back and tell your school administrator that you need to buy all new balls next year because the Wilson ball won't be our official ball. You can still use the Wilson ball as long as it's used during regular season. The official ball contract means that this ball must be used postseason, which would be sectional, regional, and state tournament. So those balls are still good balls and can be used for practice, regular season next year, the Wilson. But come postseason, you'll have to have the Dudley Thunder Heat. Eye black must be used for the purpose for which it was intended, which means directly under the eye. It is not permitted to be used as war paint, face paint, lettering, slogans, whatever. Officials, they cannot enter the field of play if their eye black is not appropriate. Coaches, this shouldn't be an issue because this is your responsibility. Your players must wear it for the purpose for which it was intended. Don't create a problem with this. This is your responsibility, Coach. Regular season, to avoid unnecessary delay, we ask that we know that sometimes bus drivers don't get back from their regular run in time. There may be an accident. There may be a variety of reasons why the team doesn't get there to play at 4:30 when you have scheduled. We would ask that you warm up. As the home team, go ahead and warm up. So when they get off the bus, all that has to occur is they have to warm up and you can begin play. Because your officials and your fans will be on time. And so you don't want to leave them. It's a courteous thing, waiting, and then you have to warm up also, and it delays even later the start of the game. With cell phones now, Coach will call you and say, hey, we'll be there in 15 minutes. You can go ahead and do your warm-up. High school, you get 32 games. That means a school can only schedule a maximum of 32, and players can only play in a total of 32. So if I have a JV player who is playing a JV game, then bumping up and playing varsity some, if she plays in the JV game and then either bats or plays defense, that counts as 2 of her 32 games. The only time it does not count against the athlete is if they serve only as a courtesy runner. Then that would not count as one of their 32 games. Middle school, you get a total of 18. So your players can only play in 18 games. Non-school participation rule. This is an important rule because it affects kids in a major way. So it's important, Coach, that you explain to your athletes and your parents this rule. And what this rule says is if you are a team sport, which obviously softball is a team sport, then a girl who is playing softball for her middle school team cannot play softball for an outside team, meaning a church league, rec league, travel ball. Same rule for volleyball. A girl who's playing volleyball for her high school can't play travel ball at the same time. A boy who's playing basketball for his high school can't play basketball for an AAU team or an outside team at the same time. Now, the consequence for violating this rule is quite severe. So please make sure your parents and your kids understand they can play no other team ball, that's church league, rec league, anything, while they're playing for their school team. The consequence is severe. They lose their eligibility at the school for the remainder of the year. So the consequence is severe. So make sure your kids and parents understand that rule. We're educational-based athletics. State Board Policy 2422 is anti-tobacco. If you choose to use tobacco, that's your business, but please respect the educational process and don't bring it on the property. That means the parking lot, the dugout, the field, no tobacco is permitted. Whether it's school property or whether you're using someone else's property to play educational-based athletics, no tobacco is permitted. We are different than travel ball. We have the 3 S's. We have sportsmanship. There are consequences for inappropriate behavior in educational-based athletics. It's called an ejection. You're out the next 3 games. Scholastic. You have to get a 2.0 to play educational-based athletics. You don't have to have 2.0 to play travel ball. Okay? And then the last one is safety. We have a lot of safety rules and regulations to protect our kids. We're educational-based athletics. Who can coach in the state of West Virginia? The State Department of Education sets this policy, and it says anyone who has a valid teaching certificate or takes a 14.5-hour course, has a fingerprint and background check done, passes all 3 written tests with a minimum score of 80%, and then fills out Form 39 every year. Your coaching authorization, once you receive it from the State Department, is for 1 year only, from June to June. Every year you want to coach, you must complete Form 39 and get authorization from the State Department of Education. If schools play a contest without the eligibility being completed online, they will forfeit any and all contests and pay a $25 fine. So please make sure that your eligibility is completed online prior to the first contest. The out-of-season coaching rule has changed, so I'm going to cover what has changed. Because of the school calendar and having to go 180 days regardless now, we had some schools when we had weeks 50, 51, and 52 as our out-of-season weeks. We had some schools in week 50 that were still in school because of snow days. They weren't out of school yet. So there needed to be some adjustment to this rule. So what has occurred is that now your county superintendent will set the 3-week window for your county. It can begin as early as week 49 after the state baseball and must conclude by week 4. It must be consecutive. There is a dead week, the 4th of July week. That means no one can have any out-of-season activities during the 4th of July week. That is a dead week. The 3-week window must be voluntary, and again, it would be established by your county board superintendent. And the reason that is important is because middle school kids will have the same 3-week window as high school kids. So parents who have children in both schools will be able to take vacation, so it's important that the county set one 3-week window. With that 3-week window, there are 6 flex days. Your flex days must be out of season. Okay? So flex days can't be used during your season. Alright? This is the out-of-season coaching rule. That means it's after your season. The flex days are also after your season. Your 6 days must be approved by your principal. Per sport, you get 6 per sport. Flex days cannot be used during the first week of any high school or middle school season. So that means the beginning of football, volleyball, the fall season in high school, that first week, no one can use a flex day. The use of any part of the day for any activity will count as a flex day. So that means if I'm foolish enough to get a flex day approved by my principal and and I stay after school, and at maybe June 15th or June 1st or 2nd, after softball season's over, and I work with my pitchers for a half hour, I just used one of my 6 flex days. Now, that wouldn't be a wise use of my time to only work a half hour. Flex days can only be used on Sunday with SSAC approval. And the only way we will approve a Sunday is if it's outside of your control. So what that means is, if a camp is going on at Duquesne and you want to take pitchers and catchers to a camp on a Saturday and Sunday, Duquesne set the date, you had no control over that. You could request approval from this office to do that. However, you're choosing to have some softball activity on Sunday at your school, we would not permit that. Okay, we don't want kids out on Sunday. They need one day a week where coaches and schools can't dictate that they need to be there. You got a lot of other days besides using Sundays. Flex days must be voluntary. They can't be used as any part of the tryout. And obviously your season is not started. They're out of season, so they could not ever count as any of your practice days. Your 14 required practice days. Okay. Nothing new here, sub-varsity. Please, your pregame conference, you must go over game-ending procedures. I would ask that you review this information in the Interscholastic. We have been doing this now for at least 6 years, and we still have people who are confused about this. The 8-run rule is all year long, all season. The 10-run rule is for regular season only. Please, coaches and officials, review the game-ending procedures so you understand it prior to your first contest. Also, coaches and officials, please make sure that this is covered at the pregame conference. How you're going to handle game-ending procedures for that contest. Sectional tournament. The sectional tournament the window has been extended because now instead of having maybe 3 or 4 teams, you have 6 or 7 teams in your section. All teams must begin play on May 2nd. You may begin play on Monday, and I would encourage you to do that, on the 1st, but everybody must begin play on the 2nd. Once the tournament runs, it must run consecutive days. Remember, when I say consecutive days, you can't ever do anything with kids on Sunday. That's a rule for all of our sports. Some of you some coaches have chosen to try to manipulate or play games with this part of it, that it must run consecutive. I'm here to tell you, you cannot do that. You now have 6 or 7 schools in your section. And while I think my activity at my school is important, so does the next school B, and so does school C. So you may have a National Honor Society banquet on Monday, and you don't want to play Monday. School B might have a sports banquet on Tuesday. School C might have a band concert, and on and on and on, and everybody's got a prom on Saturday. You can't choose not to play. You can't try to manipulate the sectional schedule. You should tell your athletes before they try out from May 1st to the 12th or 13th, 13th's a rain day, you have to be committed to softball. Now, what your option would be if the kid chooses to go to the National Honor Society banquet or the sports banquet, it's called play without them or forfeit. Those are your 2 options. You don't get to say, sorry, we can't play on Wednesday. There are 7 teams or 6 teams in your section. Remember, if it's not completed by the rain date, it reverts back to single elimination. It's very important, coaches, that you understand this. And I have somebody, every year I have somebody tell me, well, that's not what single elimination is. Listen to what I'm saying to you. Single elimination means the first game that is played, you lose, you're out. That's single elimination. So that means that first game is pretty important too. Because if you don't get it in and people try to manipulate it and not play on certain dates, you won't get it in. And because spring in West Virginia is wet. Okay, okay? That's just a fact of life. Tournament play, 18 players may dress, 22 personnel in the dugout. All sectional and regional games must be played on softball fields with dirt infields. This is a requirement. Officials, coaches, if you do not have a regulation softball field, then you cannot host sectional, regional tournament. You cannot host. Double first base is the home team's decision and may only be used for regular season only. So officials, if again they have a double first base, it either comes out or they can't host it. They put the single base in, or they cannot host the sectional or regional tournament. We play with a regular base, just like baseball, a regular base for postseason. If you use the double first base, we would ask that you notify your opponents that you're using it. And if you cannot remove it, then you cannot host sectional or regional play. The regional tournament is now double elimination. The host school will rotate every year. This year, Section 1 will be the host school. It will be Section 1's responsibility to secure umpires, select time for tournament. The first game will be played at Section 1. The second game will go to Section 2. And then the third game will come back to Section 1. It must be completed by May 20th, or again, it reverts back to single elimination. Okay? That's your regional tournament. Rating of officials, nothing new here. Coach, you're required to rate, head varsity coaches are required to rate officials after each contest. Giving a 4 or a 5 requires a written explanation to this office. Please, coaches, the only written explanation I will accept is a misapplication of the rule, or the official wasn't on time. He or she has an obligation to be there on time. You can give them a 4 or 5 if they're late, or they're not dressed appropriately. They don't have their patch on. They're not in the official attire. I'll accept that. Or a misapplication of a rule, not judgment calls. Coach, you don't get to substitute your judgment for the official's judgment or the umpire's judgment. Ejection, nothing new here. Coaches, if you're ejected, you must immediately leave the vicinity. That means out of sight and sound, and you're out the next 3. If an athlete is ejected, they would be restricted to the dugout. Remember, you are responsible for supervising them, so you wouldn't send them unsupervised somewhere. They would go to the dugout, then they're out of sight and sound, would start the next 3 games. Coach, remember, you get ejected the first pitch of a ball game, you're out that one, and the next 3. So the moral of this story is don't get ejected, okay? State Law 61-215A and B. This is the assault law. Now, this doesn't work by osmosis, but there is a law on the books to protect coaches, officials, and administrators from assault. Now, what this means is you must, if you are assaulted, you must go down to magistrate court and file charges. There's one basic human principle that from the time children are babies to we go to the grave, that our whole judicial system is set up on. And that is, if the consequence is severe enough, it modifies behavior. Our whole judicial system is set up on that basic principle. So if Kelly behaves inappropriately and assaults an official, and the official doesn't file charges or does nothing, Kelly's probably going to do it again because there was no consequence. However, if the official goes down, files charges against Kelly for assault, there is a mandatory 24-hour night in jail and a $100 fine. Now, I don't like to lighten my wallet, and I certainly wouldn't want to spend the night in jail. So that consequence is probably severe enough to modify my behavior. I'm probably not going to assault an official again. Now, if you don't go down and file charges, you're setting the next umpire up to get what you got. Okay? because that person's not going to learn from their behavior. So make sure if you are assaulted either as a coach or an official that you file charges. Here are your dates, nothing new here. These are in your packets, officials. Your Part 1 test begins February 27th. That's on a Monday, ends March 13th. You will lose 5 points. If you don't complete that, your Part 2 is March 20th through April 3rd. Softball nominations are due. They close on May 1st. We would encourage you, if you're interested in being considered for selection for the state tournament, to self-nominate. Your game reports are due August 1st. Chuck Leach has the patches for sale, and he is in around the clinic trail, but you can contact him if you need to purchase a patch or you need some additional equipment. Coach's management login. This is just a sample of the login page. Here's a sample of what the coach's rating page looks like. The courts recognize that you have 10 legal duties as a coach. The first legal duty, you have a duty to properly plan the activity. Just like a teacher has to do daily lesson plans, you are required as a coach to do daily practice plans. Listen, coaching is teaching. That's why it's paired with the teaching profession. It is teaching, it's just a different subject. So that's why it is with the teaching profession. You also must provide proper instruction. You teach something incorrectly and a kid gets injured, you're liable. You must warn of inherent risks, and the law says you must repeatedly warn of inherent risks. You must provide a safe physical environment. That means if the weather's bad outside and I send the kids up to the gym to run, before I get up there and I didn't check the facility and there's broken glass on the floor, the roof leaked, and a kid slips and falls and gets injured, I'm liable. Or I send them out to the softball field and I'm in the dugout and I didn't check the softball field and a team of gophers came in and dug some holes and a kid steps in a hole and blows their ACL, you're liable. You must make sure that the physical environment is safe. You must provide adequate and proper equipment. Karen's going to talk about the checking of that equipment a little bit later, but I'm here to tell you, coaches, you allow a kid to use an illegal bat and someone gets injured, either brain damaged or killed from the ball coming off of that illegal bat hot, you don't have enough money. You are liable, so you must make sure that your equipment is legal and adequate and safe. Same way with your batting helmets, Karen's going to talk about that. Match your athletes appropriately. Evaluate your athletes for injury or incapacity. This is your sports first aid. So if your school's not providing an athletic trainer, then coach, that's your responsibility. You have a legal duty to provide immediate sports first aid. You must supervise the activity closely. If you are a millennium, and I use them as an example, who are addicted to these, and you can't put it down, you're texting, you're FaceTime, you're all this stuff on this machine, you shouldn't be coaching. Your kids deserve your undivided attention, and they deserve to be supervised closely. Appropriate emergency assistance, we're going to talk a little bit about that. That's your AED and having an emergency action plan in place. The law requires it. Protect against physical and psychological harm from others. This legal duty was added about 4 or 5 years ago with the Penn State debacle. So now you have a legal duty to protect kids from psychological harm. So this is the hazing, the bullying, the harassment, the sexual harassment. I'm going to give you some help in meeting that legal duty here in just a minute with the course. All coaches are now required to annually complete the WVSSAC concussion course. Everyone. Officials, we encourage you to take it, but coaches, by law, Senate Bill 336, you are required to take it annually. You also are required to provide information to your parents and athletes. Very important, the physical form, if the parent must sign, remember, athletics is a privilege, not a right guaranteed by the Constitution. The Constitution doesn't say thou shalt play softball. Okay? It's a privilege. It must be earned. So parents must sign and give their children permission to participate. So the front of the physical, when they sign it, there's a paragraph, some language about concussion. So it tells them where to go to get more information. That's the first thing. Then the CDC letter is in your coaching packet. Your coaching packet is that required reading online. When you don't know where something is, go to your coaching packet. We've tried to put everything in there. It's like Prego. It's in there. So go to your coaching packet. You remember Prego. You're laughing. Yeah. Some are like, huh? Yeah. Okay. Injury report. This is required, okay? Within 30 days of an athlete having a concussion, you are required by law to complete the injury report and return it to the state. Where is that? It's in your packet. Go to your packet. That's where you'll find the form. Okay, nothing new here, guys. We've been saying this to you about 6 or 7 years now. An athlete removed from a contest that shows signs and symptoms of a concussion shall be immediately evaluated by the appropriate healthcare professional. If no appropriate healthcare professional with training in head injuries is available, then the athlete shall not be permitted to RTP, which stands for return to play. Nothing new there. Same language in the law, same thing. What is new is this. No more than 1 progression step per day is permitted. This is new. Now, there are 6 progression steps. So Kelly has a concussion. We had a doubleheader on Saturday. Kelly has a concussion. She goes to the ER. ER doctor says, yep, Kelly, you've got a concussion. I'm going to write you a slip to take back to your coach, and you can start practicing return to play on Tuesday. Can Kelly return to play on Tuesday? No, she cannot. She cannot return to play until she, every 24-hour period, completes a progression. Now, Kelly completes the first one, so the next day she goes to the next one. The third day, sport-specific, Kelly starts having symptoms again. Blurred vision, nausea, headache. It doesn't start over, but you're correct. I don't get to go to the next one. I stay on this progression until I can complete it. And then I move to the next one. So the minimum amount of time before you can get a kickback that has a concussion is 6 days. That's the minimum. It could be 16 days. Because if the concussion is severe and they can't go through the progressions, it could take 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Okay? These are the appropriate healthcare professionals. Nothing new here, guys. Same group we've had for the last 6 years. They're licensed, they're in the law. This is what the law says. One of these must evaluate and return Kelly to play after she completes the 6 progressions. Heat acclimatization and illness course. This is the course that you must take 1 time. Okay, not annually, 1 time. Heat illness is the leading cause of preventable death among high school athletes. Think about that for a second. The leading cause of preventable death among high school athletes. Heat illness occurs when a coach goes too soon, too hard, too long, and I add too stupid, because that is foolish to do. Additional materials are in your packet. The heat index chart is in your packet, so make sure that you complete that course. Sudden cardiac arrest. You must complete the sudden cardiac arrest course 1 time. Sudden cardiac arrest simply occurs when the heart stops beating. That's a sudden cardiac arrest. Over 400,000 Americans a year have an SCA. Now I'm going to tell you, the SCA occurs 75% of the time in adults. That's you and me. Okay? Us old folks. Okay? Every 3 days, though, an athlete dies. So you need to understand what to do when an SCA occurs. Now, this is disturbing to me. I'm old, see, and this 10% is a little disturbing. That's the survival rate when an SCA occurs. How can you increase that rate? It goes up substantially if you have an AED on site or access to one and you know how to use it. Okay? Really, really important, guys. We have two officials in the state of West Virginia in the last year who are alive and with us today because an SCA, an AED was on site when they had an SCA. Plain and simple. One was a basketball official at a basketball game in Harrison County last year, and the AD knew how to use it, sent for it, got it on him, saved his life. No question about it. The other one was a football official. Okay? And they're both here today because that rate goes up significantly. You don't have one, oh boy, not good. Okay. With that, these courses are where the NFHS Learn. This is where you can find them. Now, these are all on the opening page of our website. So when you go to the opening page of our website, the link is there. So you don't have to go to NFHS Learn. You just click on the course. It'll take you there. This fourth course, it's not called Creating a Safe and Respectful Environment anymore. It is called Hazing and Bullying. It's the same course. We strongly recommend that you take that course. If I were an administrator working in a school today, no one would coach for me unless they had completed that course. It will help you with that 10th legal duty, that psychological piece, the hazing, the bullying, the harassment, the sexual harassment. It will give you the skills and the tools you need to deal and meet that 10th legal duty. These are other free courses that are available. This is the NFHS Web Hub. Okay, there are 18 free courses available. The NFHS Network is up and running, and they hope to, by 2020, stream every event in America live. That's a pretty hefty goal, but you can go on now and join, and you can watch high school sports all year long, all over the country. They're streaming them. Okay? And with that, we'll work with Miss Karen King. We'll be up next. There you go. Thank you.
Good evening. I get the part of doing National Federation rules, and again, every year I say there's not a whole lot of rule changes, and again, there's not a whole lot of rule changes. So before I get started, though, I've got to get a cartoon in every once in a while. So we're at the umpires' annual picnic, and as the officers trying to question the umpires that this accident happened right in front of them, I'm sure y'all can see at the bottom, says, "Now, let me get this straight. This accident occurred right in front of your eyes, but no one saw what happened." So coaches, it doesn't just happen to you sometimes. With that said, we'll first talk about the taper part of the bat, where the handle and the barrel come together. The rule change occurs because they took solid surface and shall have A. They took that part out of the rule, so that became a rule change. And all it's telling us is that taper part can either be solid or non-solid. Either way, it's a legal bat. The next one has to do with inclement weather and uniforms. I think we've upgraded our program to where most of the time, if there's inclement weather, lots of times the jackets have the numbers and so forth. We know those need to be zipped up and so forth. But if by chance that jacket doesn't have the number, don't be offended if the umpire says, "Hey, I need to make sure that you have the correct number on." But headgear and so forth, any of that having to do with to keep the safety of the student athlete, that's what we're looking for. And as Kelly talked about the weather, you know as well as I know, we could either start a ball game in sleeves and shorts and end the ball game in toboggans and sweatshirts in the spring of the state of West Virginia. So again, with that said, the undergarments, they must be solid, so we take away from anything having to do where they put those sleeves on, they have paisley on them, or they're camouflage or something along that line. So undergarments must be solid. And as I say that, the top undergarment or the undergarment under the sleeves, if one person has on blue on the team, everyone must have one. I won't say everyone. Everyone that's wearing an undergarment must have the color blue. If it's the lower part, it can be a different color from the blue. It can be black. But if one player has black undergarment, then whoever else is wearing undergarment, they must have black also. So sometimes, to me, pictures speak louder than words. So the thing we're looking at here basically is the same collar, and those collars have to be black, white, gray, or the school collar. Those solid collars. So with that said, with the exception of the braces, those do not fall under those collar restrictions, but that's not part of the uniform. Let's look at the picture. This young lady, she's blue at the top, black on the bottom, she's good. What they're trying to show here is this young lady has on camouflage. That's a no. That makes her illegal. And in the third picture, the C picture, she becomes illegal. The players become illegal for two reasons: camouflage and obviously not matching. If this young lady had on blue, just like this young lady, then we would be legal. Because we can be blue across and black across here. We can't be, we can't be blue here and then somebody have black down here and blue down here. So again, we're across, we're okay. The difference in the colors can be top to bottom, but still, whether it's here or here, they have to be the same. Bottoms have to be the same color for bottom, tops have to be the same color for top. Okay? Umpires, we still get to check equipment. Our most favorite job of the game. So with that said, the difference is, coaches, your responsibility comes that you have to have that equipment outside the dugout, and in the state of West Virginia, and I think most states, we're saying 15 minutes prior to game time. So if by chance, your game would happen to get changed, as Kelly spoke earlier, you had a 4 o'clock start time, but you've gotten word that the team's going to be late, now it's at 4:15. Umpires make that adjustment accordingly also, please. So, 15 minutes, and I stress that that's SSAC games. I think most of the other states are using 15, but if not, when in Rome, who's the Romans do? This is a new rule, and here's the consequences of. At 10 minutes till, as an umpire, if I come by and say, hey coach, your equipment's not out, there's your first warning. You just had your warning to get your equipment out. And then if I happen to walk by and one of your young ladies has left the bat in the dugout, and it's in sight, and somebody turns around and says, oh, we're not using that bat, then it should be in the dugout. So, really, coaches, the kids can put you in the dugout pretty quick if you're careful. Because the second team warning restricts the coach at the dugout. So, 10 minutes till, walk by, we need the equipment out, that's your first warning. If young ladies would have to leave a helmet or a bat in there, again, umpires, we're not going in looking. We're not going in physically looking, but you happen to walk by and there's a bat in there, then it should be out there to be checked. Please don't say that when we're not using it, whether you're using it or not, that just put you in the dugout to be restricted there. So please keep that in mind. The next one had to do with unreported subs. And we know that the penalty for that, this is just more or less some clarification having to do with the second offender. So, unreported sub, and remember, a courtesy runner could fall under unreported sub. So we have an unreported sub, that's a team warning. Here's the part that catches you. If that would occur again in that game, and you put a young lady in that's going to pinch hit, and she's supposed to tell the umpire that that's a sub, and she forgets to do that, now we have an unreported sub. Second offense, the young lady that was the team's second offense, and the coach that puts you in the dugout. So please keep that in mind. Second violation puts you in the dugout for an unreported sub.
Is that an out?
Is that an out? The unreported sub is not an out. That's the penalty of it. The second time, I don't believe that's an out.
Just put somebody else in.
But you report somebody in. Okay, same thing. That's it for rule changes. Editorial changes. This one has to do with the a drying agent and some clarification as far as the biggest thing we're going to look at is that the young ladies can go to a drying agent straight to the ball. So if you reach back and get over and draw some back and go straight to the ball, that's all right. The drying agent is okay. It's not necessary to wipe. However, the young lady may not go to the hand and straight to the ball. Hand, got to wipe, then go to the ball. Question's been asked, what about dirt? Yes, the young lady can reach down, put her hand in the dirt, and go straight to the ball. But here's some differences in the dirt. She can't reach down and get a handful of dirt and rub it on the ball. Nor can she take the ball and rub it in the dirt. So please make that clarification there. As an umpire, I can do that. If the ball feels a little slick, I can reach down, get some dirt, rub it on the ball, or I can take the ball and rub it in the dirt and rub it off. Players, drying agent to ball is okay. Dirt to ball is okay. Hand, the mouth, we got to wipe. But there's a clarification there. They may go directly to with the drying agent. They do not have to wipe off at that point. Batter's out. This has to do with some clarification because I believe this is the rule that was left out of the rule book somewhere along the way. So just remember, that's not even, I don't think that's correct either. This one has to do with the clarification of an injured player. If by chance the young lady, the rule says that once she is awarded to the base, she is responsible for getting herself to the base. If they didn't have included in that an injured player that wasn't capable of getting to first base. So all they've done here is clarify that if a young lady would happen to get hit by a pitch, let's say, that she is not capable of getting herself to first base, and we put a sub in, just normally, and that does not constitute an out. If the player is injured and can't get herself there, then we're still good to go. Yeah, that is the one that part of that rule got left out in 2013. They just realized it and put it back in the rule book this year. So that's where that becomes an editorial change. Any questions on that? Okay, points of emphasis. This one has to do with, and we're seeing this at all levels, from the little ladies right on through the college, have to do with the wristbands and signals or play calls, pitch from the dugout. And here's what has started to happen: is the young lady looks over to the dugout, she gets the signal, she goes to the wristband, she steps on the rubber and goes. The part that has been left out of that is take or simulate taking a signal from the catcher. That part of the rule still exists. So umpires, if they are not simulating or taking or simulating taking a signal from the catcher, you have an illegal pitch. So one more time, they can look over and take the signal. They can figure out what pitch they're going to throw. From there, they've got to either hands apart take or simulate taking a signal from the catcher. If that doesn't occur, that is an illegal pitch. So that has not changed. It just kind of went away when the wristbands appeared. Kind of just left that part out. So we've got to put that part right back in there again. Then everything else stays the same. She still has that second, okay, to 10 seconds to deliver the ball. Nothing has changed whatsoever. Some other things that we want to point out there also is make sure that, I saw this quite a bit last year, make sure the foot is on or partially on the plate or within the 24-inch part of the plate. Make sure that they stay there. Along with that, having to do with that step back. Remember the young ladies, and I think again at this level, and a lot of people say, well, they need to put 2 feet on the rubber. Well, they can. So again, the rules are for all levels, from middle school through high school. So that 1 foot on and being able to step back and going with it, that may create another picture at a middle school level. However, if the young lady's in high school and she's pretty sure she's going to advance on, then she can start with the 2 foot and go ahead and deliver her pitch from there. So that kind of leaves that open there. Just remember that step back, once the hands are together, the first step must be forward. She can be bringing the hands together at the same time and stepping back, but once the hands are together, the step must be forward. Take that first step forward. And then after we've gone through that whole process, of course, we got to have hopefully a strike 3, so umps, you work on your strike 3 call. Or kids, I don't know where the mask is on this. It must have been a heck of a call, and hopefully they don't have to go get PT after that call and they haven't thrown their back. This has to do with a headband. If you notice this, and I say headband, and we know we cannot have bananas on, that this is a legal headband. Just like any other headband. You can't have any glitters on it, along with the bows and the ribbons cannot have any glitters or sparkles. This headband cannot. There's been some question, how long can these tails be? I think that's coming from basketball. Maybe there's some guidelines in basketball as to how long. In softball, there is no guidelines on how long that can be. Okay, can't be in basketball. I thought there's something. Okay, is that what it is? All right, so it has to go by the guidelines. It's not considered a bandana, but it must meet the collar and manufacturer logo, that particular headband. DP Flex. Yay, DP Flex. I got to talk about that a little bit. Again, my ultimate goal would be north, south, east, west. You got the same interpretation, correct interpretation every time you went to a ball game. And and wanted to use the DP and Flex. In your coach's information, there's a snapshot just like that. So we tried to minimize it down, make it a little shorter to see if, again, maybe we can understand it and interpret it and apply it with 100% accuracy. With that said, I'm going to say it again, I think it's a great rule. Use the DP and Flex. It gives a young lady that's a great hitter the ability to show off her stuff. You give a young lady that's a great just defender but not that good of a hitter, give her ability to show off her stuff. You use a couple courtesy runners, now you've got 12 kids in the game. And again, that's what it's all about, some participation. So if you have any questions on DP and Flex, please feel free to give me a call anytime. We'll talk about it and see if we can't get that in the game correct. Central Hub, Kelly talked a little bit about Central Hub. Before I go to that, at the bottom of it, it says here, take the field. And remember, your parents are counting on you to achieve their unfulfilled dreams of sports glory. So, everybody seems to like that. But again, as we say that, those young ladies have different reasons for being out there participating. And we hope it's because they want to be out there and it's a goal of theirs. A lot of different reasons. Maybe it is to fulfill parents' dream. Maybe it is so they just don't have to be at home that evening for a few evenings. So, but whatever. Again, coaches, there's a lot of responsibility for you all, and hopefully it is a winning situation, or I should say a positive situation for the players, and something that they can cherish for a long time in life. Kelly talked about National Federation, West Virginia being on 100% participation sports umpires. That just opens the whole video situation up to you. For those of us that a little gray hair used to run all over the country to find out this information, now you can do it at a click of a button. There's videos to show positioning, where you're supposed to be. Mechanics is just full of information. But the nice thing again, it's all because we're 100% participation state. That is all right at our fingertips. Ebooks, you can download your rule book. I think it's $6 down there to your phone, but remember, you can't take your phone out on the field. But if you needed some easy reading, I guess, at the airport or on the bus or whatever the case may be, you can download your rule books to ebook. All right. So with that said, I get off pretty easy this year. So with that said, unless you have questions, I hope you have a great season. I think we'll take questions afterwards.
Yep.